Welcome back to the polls. Now, you would have to get ready to pay a bit more when next you decide to fuel your car. That's because prices of petroleum products are seeing an upward adjustment across board at the pumps. It comes as the National Petroleum Authority, in a press statement, indicated its resolve to restore the price stabilization and recovery levies on petroleum products effective today. Well, some drivers are not taking lightly to this new increment at the pumps. They want government to reconsider its decision.
It's true. The fuel. You see, I'm using motorbike, and the first time when I buy 5 cedis, I can take it home. I can take it home and bring it back. But now 10 cedis, I won't reach anywhere. The fuel, it will finish. Just right now, I buy only 50 cedis before coming here. So why the fuel is too expensive now.
At times you can feel come job, you know, get money. So at times if you buy 10 cedi, if the price is normal, you can feel ready to go house. But right now they increase the petrol. If you buy 10 cedi, no go take you go house. So we are feeling this thing.
What can I say? Say we should board no so I who the board no so. And as a Ghanaian, I'm not thinking about myself. Media said you who name and meet me out. But farmers na aye duane go villages no. And no more coffee and any idea ban. On bed in about drivers in the bed.
Make a abanish. The Panichono only or man, no man more wired in the do. Now, full no more to do. There's an passenger for no so now almost so fast.
Make say, a man want petrol so my because they say taxi and fro. I'm sending board into your for taxi. It will be a trot or a number from a or mine. Yes, I did. Yes, we are
Well, so you had some drivers there, obviously not happy about the decision. Our research desk has put together information to help you appreciate what this price stabilization recovery levy on petroleum products is all about and why government is reintroducing the levies at this time. Joining me now is Isaac Kofi J. He's with the research desk here at JoyNews. He joins us with a breakdown of the figures and what it should mean to you out there. So, Isaac, let's start off with the price stabilization levy. First of all, what is the rationale behind the stabilization levy?
Blessed, if you can hear me, the purpose, of the price stabilization levy is to stabilize prices for consumers and pay for subsidies on premix fuel and, residual fuel oil. So that's the purpose for the price stabilization levy.
So now that government is announcing that they'll be restoring the levy, what then happens to fuel prices after this decision?
Well, this simply means that all things being equal, the PSRL is expected to feature, on the price build-up list for the windows ahead, effective today. This will lead to a removal, of the pushing amount of 16 pesos on a liter of petrol, and then 14 pesos on a liter of diesel, and 14 pesos on a liter of LPG. Now, beyond external forces such as currency depreciation and changes in the price of gasoline, which have the tendency to affect the price of fuel at the pumps, there are also levies on the price build-up. So as of today, that is first, February 2022 window, there are about 12 taxes and margins applicable, on the price build-up as we speak now.
So let's talk about the expected revenue. We're expecting somewhere around 100.5 billion cedis. How significant will be the levy in terms of revenue mobilization?
So, Blessed, this year, total revenue for the price stabilization and recovery levy is pledged at 816.2 billion cedis in 2022. That's this year. Now, this is over 31% more than the projected, revised budget amount of 619 million cedis in 2021.
Well, it turns out that the drivers are not the only ones feeling the pinch of the increase in fuel prices. Some traders are already threatening to increase the price of their commodities in anticipation of an increase in transport fares. The Kumasi Institute for Technology, Energy and Environment is worried about government's decision to restore the price stabilization and recoveries levies on petroleum products at this time. Executive Director for the Institute, Ishmael Ejikum, says a rippling effect of the increase in fuel prices should be anticipated. He spoke on News Desk.
The 16 pesos, 14 pesos addition to what you pay per liter, addition to what you pay at the pump, apart from any other adjustment that may be coming from as a result of movement in the world market and exchange rate. So it's going to be an upward adjustment. I mean, it's just restoring to where we used to be before they decided to take those levies off for the 2-month period. Every consumer, including myself, would want to pay a lower price as much as possible. What I also know is that whenever any one of them is dropped, there's going to be a price to be paid by all of us. I mean, we were told that for the 2 months that the PSRL was suspended, it was like 50 million cedis a month. So that translates to over 100 million over the two months that it was suspended. So yes, we can advocate for removal of all levies and taxes, but there are consequences. For example, we were told in the MPA letter that the PSRL is actually specifically meant to subsidize premixed fuel and also the residual fuel oil. So what it means is that if it's not paid, government will have to find money somewhere to pay for those subsidies. So yes, I would want to pay less, but for any of the levies that has earmarked and dedicated to a particular purpose, if it's taken off, then it means government will have to find money to be paying and for the levy to be doing what it's doing. So I want to pay less, and I'm always happy to fight and say that the levies will, but under the circumstances, I don't know what the government options are.
Well, let's broaden this conversation here. On the Pulse, we are joined now by the head of price stabilization at the National Petroleum Authority, Abbas Ibrahim Tasunti. He's joining us via Zoom. We're grateful that you're joining us on the Pulse. Now, you have announced your intention, indicating why you would have to reverse and implement the levy. What are the factors accounting for the decision this time around?
Thank you very much. Let me first correct that I'm the head of pricing at NPA, not the price stabilization. Just as the previous speaker mentioned, there's a purpose for the price stabilization and recovery levy. Indeed, as per the Energy Sector Levies Act 899, 2015, the Section 5C clearly states that it's supposed to be used to pay for subsidies on premixed fuel and residual fuel oil, and also help to stabilize prices when it can be used. So what has been done over the past 3 months is the helping to stabilize prices for consumers. You are aware that because we've deregulated prices, and like the previous speaker said again, that even if you take out all of these taxes, there's a consequence. Another thing is that even with a full removal of these taxes or levies from the price, but that will not stop prices from moving up or down in response to changes on the world market and the exchange rate. So basically, you cannot stop the prices from moving, but the removal kind of was a cushion for consumers over that period that it was removed. Now, the second aspect of it being used to pay for subsidies on premixed fuel and residual fuel oil. If the levy is removed forever, then it means there will be no money in the account that is supposed to be used to pay for these products. And the supply of this product is also very important because the fisher folk rely on this for fishing, and also industries rely on residual fuel oil for production. So we look at what is in the account, and then based on what we see in the account and how long it can last, we advise governments technically. So what we did in October 2021 was that we saw that there was kind of some balance in the account which we could rely on to cushion consumers for a while. That's how come there was an initial removal for 2 months. And so that was what we did. Another month was requested. So now, looking at what we have in the account, if it is not brought back, we will not be able to raise revenue to pay for the subsidies that is accruing on premixed fuel and residual fuel oil. So that is the reason why the deadline was 31st January. So once it has ended, as a regulator, we take that directive from the Ministry of Finance and Parliament as to which taxes and levies should be on petroleum products. So once we have not been given a directive to remove it from the price board up, we have to make sure it reflects in the formula, and that's how it has been restored.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It appears that the aim is to protect the consumers, but that's not working with or without the levy.
So like I explained, you cannot stop the movement of prices of petroleum products in a deregulated market. The only way one can stop movement of prices is to subsidize the product. So if you see the price of petroleum products stable for a longer period, it means that something is happening, which means the price is being subsidized. So since we deregulated in July 2015, you would notice that the price of fuel changes every 2 weeks in response to changes on the world market. So the fact that the prices were moving does not mean that nothing was done. So like in this typical scenario, the levy was removed from the formula for the month of November and December 2021 and January 2022. Consumers were not made to pay for this levy. So the fact that the prices moved doesn't mean that it didn't work. It worked. So the consumer was spared from paying the 16 pesos extra on petrol, for example. So the fact that prices moved doesn't mean that the intervention did not work.
But your concern should also be about the economy. Already, the main stakeholders in all of this, the drivers, are lamenting the decision that you're taking. Are you mindful of all of these concerns that are coming up?
So, as you are aware, the National Petroleum Authority is not the manager of the country's economy in terms of the fiscal policy decisions. We act on what we've been directed by Parliament. Levies and taxes, imposition of levies and taxes on petroleum products is done by government through Parliament. So for us, if Parliament has passed that a levy should reflect in the formula that is supposed to be used to set the price, we have to implement that. If there's a directive to us that the levy should go off, we would apply that accordingly. So it is not for us to decide what levy is on the product or not. So the management of the economy and the impact, I think the Ministry of Finance will handle that. So if they do the assessments and they think that the government can get revenue from elsewhere to pay for the subsidies for premix and RFO, and then we are directed to remove this levy, we will comply accordingly.
Peter Tekpe is also an analyst. He's joining us. But Abbas, just to take you on this, why is the NPA acting independently in this case when we know that you're concerned about the markets? Obviously, without consumption, the markets will not survive. So what's the priority for you in all of this?
So NPA as a regulator, we regulate not only prices, we regulate the entire petroleum downstream industry, ensuring that players comply with the rules and regulations of the industry. We also ensure that pricing is done in a fair manner. We do not determine the price. Like I mentioned, the price is based on changes on the world market and the exchange rate, and also locally the taxes that are imposed. And these taxes are not determined or defined by NPA. NPA only implements taxes in the formula as has been passed by the Parliament of Ghana. So if a levy or a tax has been passed by the Parliament of Ghana to be imposed on petroleum products, NPA cannot on its own decide that levy should not be collected.
I'm sorry,
Remember,
but you are an authority. That's why you are an authority, isn't it?
Yeah, so the authority, our mandate is not to impose taxes. Our mandate is to ensure, if you read the NPA Act, our mandate is to regulate the industry, importation, operations, safety, and all that, and ensure that products prices are set fairly in conformity with the formula. And that formula, like I said, one of the components of that formula is taxes and levies. These taxes and levies are not determined by the National Petroleum Authority. They are determined by government with approval by Parliament. So if the Parliament of Ghana, through any act, imposes any tax on petroleum products, NPA cannot on its own say that it is removing that tax from the price board. And therefore, that is why before we even removed the levy from the formula, we needed approval from government. So it is not for NPA to on its own. Our regulatory mandate does not include the imposition of taxes on petroleum products.
Just hold on for us briefly. Let's bring in Peter Tekpe as well. He's an economist. So what's your reading of all of this? And what are the likely implications for us as a nation?
Thank you very much. Just for that, I'm a policy analyst. It's unfortunate that the factors that influences the prices of the petroleum product at the pump are all not looking good. The price at the world market is going up. Exchange rate is also not looking, good. And then the taxes, which is the last one, unfortunately, the government too is constrained on revenue. So the impact, of course, of petroleum price increases on the economy is that it affects, every aspect of man's life. Once prices of petroleum product increases, we all know the impact that transport cost also goes up. And that is what is happening. And so there needs to be a deliberate government policy or a deliberate government, strategy to be able to alleviate the price increase. And I indicated the last time that the situation we find ourselves in now, the only option for government is to sacrifice at some level. The reason is that the prices of the petroleum at the world market, which is increasing, because government, the Oil Refinery is not refining our crude, and because it is profitable to sell on the international market, it means government revenue from this petroleum product will also go up. What it means is that government revenue then will increase. Once government revenue is increasing, then government can, sacrifice at that level in order to contain the cost at the pump. That's to say that if government cannot reduce taxes, if government cannot control the depreciation of the currency, the taxes which are controlled by government can decide to say, then let's sacrifice at some level. And that is the only option for government now. Unfortunately,
you are a policy analyst. How liberal should it be at this point, knowing that there are likely implications for our economy?
Well, that is the difficult aspect, because government needs revenue. And so how liberal should it be? What it means is that, look, the people should be of concern to the government. And because government is presiding over the people, and anything that will affect the lives of the people, the economic life of the people, should be government concerned. That is why it is imperative on the part of government to say that let's sacrifice at some level, because anything that government will do at the end of the day will have impact on the revenue mobilization. That is why we sacrifice. That is the only option. Look, we have short term, we have medium term, we have term. There needs to be a strategy, because the industry is deregulated. The various marketers are in to make profit. So anything that you want to do that will reduce the price, it means that somebody has to reduce his margin of his profit, because there are some aspects of the cost that the marketer can do nothing about it. The taxes are not controlled by the marketer. The depreciation of the currency movement is also not controlled by the marketer. So the marketer is only looking at the cost build-up. The ones that he doesn't have control, there's nothing they can do. So if you want to reduce cost, they look at your margin. So if government also want to alleviate the plight of the citizenry, then what they can do is that they have to then sacrifice on some aspect of their revenue, which is either tax, especially to be able to help.
We'll talk about the regulator shortly. Fortunately, Abass is still with us. Abass, so here's the point. You claim that you're not on the side of the consumers nor government, but we know that you want to protect the market. The market is about the people. So how do we solve this problem, particularly when those on the streets out there are saying you need to address the concerns they have?
Like we said, we are the regulator. It would be wrong to say that the regulator is not concerned about the plight of the consumer. The regulator ultimately has the interest of the consumer at heart, and therefore that interest is what we protect. Secondly, we don't only protect the interest of the consumer, but we also have to protect the interest of the player. So we are a referee in this case. Remember that the removal of the levy in November and December, or even the removal for the past 3 months, was based on a request by the National Petroleum Authority. And like I said, it is because when we did our analysis of the collection of the levies over the past years, we realized that there could be some surplus which can be used to subsidize or cushion consumers, and that's what we've done. And indeed, this is not the first time MP has requested for the levy to be removed. Since December 2017, on several occasions throughout to early 2020, the levy has been removed on several occasions when we see that prices are rising. So something can be done, and that's what was done. But there's an extent to which government can intervene. Remember that this levy was introduced in January 2016 when the energy sector levies restructuring was done. It was done to, this levy was brought to address an issue we used to have when government was controlling or fixing prices. What was happening was that government set the prices, subsidizes the price, but there was no source of revenue to pay for these subsidies. Now, if you subsidize product and there's no source of revenue to pay for the subsidies, what happens is that now the supplier is constrained because government doesn't pay them. Remember, all of these suppliers import the products and they take letters of credit from banks, more or less loans from banks. So their inability to get the full amount of money they are supposed to get from the sale of the product means they cannot pay the banks, and then they cannot not also pay their suppliers. So it is going to lead to shortage of petroleum products. So as a regulator, our concern is to make sure that the product is available for the consumer to consume. Then we make sure that it is priced fairly. So in this case, we cannot say that because the price is rising, the supplier should be constrained, and therefore we end up not having the product. So we have to make sure there's a balance. And that's how come the extent to which government can subsidize using the price stabilization and recovery levy based on what's available in the funds was for 3 months. And that has been done. Originally, it was for 2 months, and we requested for an extension. So we stretched it a little for another month, which ended yesterday. So the regulator is in the middle and making sure there's a balance. You cannot subsidize when you don't have a source of subsidy.
I guess it's fair to say that you don't have control over all of the factors influencing the pricing. The world market also comes to play here. So there's a need for us to know about the projection and how Ghanaians could plan towards that. What are the figures telling you on the world market, and what projections are you making as the NPA? Should we brace ourselves to pay more in the coming days?
So NPA does not project prices, but what we do is just like any other institution. We monitor the happenings on the world market, and then based on our analysis of what is happening on the world market, we are able to tell what is likely to happen, but we cannot tell specifically what will happen. But the general expectation is that the market, like Peter said, it doesn't look good. Unfortunately, there are several incidents or many things happening right now that are pushing prices upward. As you are aware, there's tension between Saudi and UAE and the Yemenis, which is causing supply concerns, and that's one of the things that is pushing up prices on the world market. The other thing is this tension between Ukraine and Russia. What this is leading to is that Russia's ability to produce natural gas to the European market is also at stake. So these things combined are affecting oil prices, and they are moving up. Secondly, there's expectation that OPEC should produce more to meet the rising demand. Since 2020, when demand fell because of lockdowns, and last year, 2021, economy started opening up, demand for petroleum products have been rising. And it is for this reason that it's expected that supply will go up. But unfortunately for OPEC, their supply is not enough to meet demand. So in the short term, what is expected is that prices are on the rise. So that is what is expected on the world market. But as a regulator, we want to bring transparency to pricing. And therefore, what we do on a daily basis is to put out the numbers as the trading closes on each particular day. So we have what we call the daily petroleum price indicators, which we publish on our website in a number of daily newspapers for consumers to see how the prices are changing and how they are likely to affect the next pricing window. So that will give you an idea of what to expect.
Abbas Tasunti is head of pricing at the NPA. Peter, if you're still on with us, let me take your final words on this. The projection is that we should be paying more in the coming days. So what's the way out of this?
Yes, we're going to pay more indeed, and the future doesn't look good in terms of the petroleum pricing because the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, which is OPEC, are not increasing production. And so what it means is that as demand keeps increasing and production is not increasing, then it will force prices to go up. Like my colleague said concerning, the tension between Russia and Ukraine, for instance. It means that nobody can, actually predict what will happen in the coming months. As a result, government then needs to look at a strategy in order to reduce. Because look, are we saying that if prices today, for instance, it's above $90 per barrel, if it goes to will government continue prices at the market is increasing, and so nothing can be done, and so we also have to bear the cost? No, it can't be possible. Something must be done at a certain time. When situations are tough, like when COVID set in, government has to take decision to be able to alleviate the plight of Ghanaians. The same way in situations like this, there should be a deliberate strategy to be able to reduce the burden because the impact is huge. And unfortunately, those who will be affected are the less vulnerable. The one who doesn't have a car, who has to struggle, go and buy goods or foodstuff from far away and bring it to the city to sell, will be impacted by transport costs. And when it happens like that, prices of goods and services will automatically go up. Who is then affected? It's the ordinary Ghanaian. That is why government needs to sacrifice. Because if your revenue projection is increasing because you are also selling on the world market because prices have increased, it means your revenue that you expect to receive will be more than you projected because prices are increasing. Then what do? You have to sacrifice part of your revenue to reduce the cost that will impact ordinary Ghanaians.
And I'm glad that you're raising this point. Let me just wrap up with you on this. Government is raking in more revenue through the levy. The projection is that they'll be able to get sufficient funds to cushion the consumers. The drivers are a key factor in all of this. Would you advocate that they take off some taxes so that the customers or the consumers could be protected in that regard?
It has been said over and over. Various stakeholders have indicated that in the price build-up, some of the taxes needs to be taken out, like the sanitation, like the... so we are saying that government, unfortunately, is constrained in terms of revenue. And you know what is happening now, where our debt is increasing and unfortunately our revenue is curtailed. So government is actually tight-lipped to say that let's reduce tax. Unfortunately, at this particular time, that is all there is. And other than that, the price stabilization, the price recovery level should not come back. But government doesn't need money, and that is the reason. And so we've got to the situation whereby the word is sacrifice, and that's all. For government to know that in the short term, 1 or 2 month time, let me sacrifice at some level because you are not losing entirely because your revenue is increasing. So you can then sacrifice at a certain level. That is the only option left for government. Other than that, we always say government needs taxes to generate income for the economy. We always say that the fluctuation of the currency cannot be controlled by government because the factors that pushes the city to go up, government has no control. So what then do we do? Sacrifice. Because government is not ready to do now. That's the unfortunate thing that we are faced with right now.
Peter Tekpe, I'm grateful for your time. A 3-member committee has submitted its findings to the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources on the Apeatse explosion, the ghastly disaster last month, which claimed 14 lives, forced government to set up a fact-finding team to ascertain the veracity of reports surrounding the incident. Maxwell Agbagba was at Apeatse in the Western region a couple of days ago to speak to the motor rider believed to be the cause of the accident. There's more in the following report.
Friends of the motorbike rider hold his hand as he walks towards personnel of the Criminal Investigations Department who are seated waiting to interrogate him on what he knows about the crash which led to the explosion. The rider limping with his legs and arms bandaged. There are bruises visible on his left hand. He was later taken to the crash site and other details taken. Philip Mensah says, contrary to claims that he collided with a vehicle carrying explosives, he did not. The tricycle crossed the vehicle in front of me. The driver applied his brakes. I also did the same. Then another vehicle hit me from the back. I fell on the road and my motorbike also kept moving. I did not see the car that hit me from the rear because it was behind me. That was the point people rushed me to the hospital, he said. About 30 minutes later, as the medical team prepared to treat my wounds, we heard the explosion. All the nurses fled the hospital because they said there was fire. Later, they realized the facility wouldn't be affected. So I was not at the scene when the explosion happened. You can ask the nurses and the doctors on duty. I have no idea when the vehicle carrying the explosives crashed into my motorbike because I was rushed to the hospital in a taxi. It was another vehicle, not the vehicle carrying the explosives, he said with tears forming in his eyes.
explosive car no be shia.
And no me nim time a car no be shia me moto because me no me talk from na di in bia na boys ni free ha buy mo dem beto taxi ni de me call. But what am I say? Aha.
Nti car from the ball any explosive car no.
Mpacho dey. Car no e bo me o mechi.
Philip Mensah says it has to know that his motorbike caused the explosion.
Me feel bad pa. If you say me nimpa. Na we asen so yen hina ye nuanom.
I feel very bad. I'm human. We are all humans with different parents. Whether my family members are part of the dead or not, it hurts my soul. There's so much pain in my heart. People have varying accounts of what happened. Some are even saying I collided with a vehicle carrying explosives. Only God knows the true story, because I was not here.
That's all.
Meanwhile, the municipal chief executive of Prestia Huni Valley, Isaac Dasmani, says there are plans to reconstruct the community that was devastated by the explosion.
Today, CEO of also Ghana Gas also came today and then offered a check of our 2 million Ghana cedis to us. We are planning for a MUSEC meeting, hopefully tomorrow, Monday, that we inaugurate a committee of members of our 11 or 12. So that we'll be foreseeing the disbursement of some of the relief items and then how we are going to cater for the displaced in the course of the year. So for now, we are proposing some clergy, some pastors, about 5 people from the community, including 2 females, and then my good self, and then some other security agencies that we feel is appropriate, so that we manage the resources that we are getting, and at the end of the day, to the benefit of the people of Apeatse. Then when it comes to the reconstruction, a lot of companies have come in, and then State Housing has been here, some other agencies have been here, and people go, Ghana Chamber of Mines, they've also offered building materials of $50,000. So all these materials are in here, and then some people, you can see that some people are even bringing some containers that we can keep some of the items in. Yes, and then we have some people who have also started donating some boards, the wood that we can also use for reconstruction and all of that. So the support has been massive. Now we are only waiting for EPA to clear us that the place is appropriate for us to start, rebuilding. So if as soon as they give us the green light, we'll get those out to clear off the site and remove all the debris, and then we'll deposit them somewhere. Then probably we'll start thinking about, we know now the time is going to be properly planned, we may need an extension. So we are thinking about some other areas that very close that we can, extend the building to some of the places. Because of course, when you are building, you can't build like the way they have built their houses. We need to make sure that we do proper planning, and then so that they can have a good facility to stay in.
So that's the account from Apeatse in the Western region. But here in Accra, Benjamin Aye, the leader of the 3-member committee today, presented their findings to the sector minister, Samuel Abu-Jinapor. The committee explained the approach adopted on their fact-finding mission, but no public disclosure was made on the recommendations contained in this document.
Following the incident, as we've been told, the Minerals Commission rightfully did the initial investigation and submitted a preliminary report to the Honorable Minister. But given the national importance and interest in the incident, the Honorable Minister decided to set up our committee to independently investigate the occurrence, to corroborate, verify, or otherwise establish what led to the happenings at Apeatse, and to enable us forge the way forward on solid basis. I must say that the committee was to submit our report on Thursday, the 27th of January, as directed by the minister. We've taken a bit more time than was required of us because we wanted to do a good job. We have dispassionately looked at the facts that were presented to us, which we were able to unearth, and objectively we have put together the facts to the extent we could establish them. And on the basis of these, we have presented our findings, and then some recommendations were made. We were able to, over the period, visit the relevant stakeholders. We were able to talk to witnesses to the various incidents, and through the interviews and our observations, we've come up with this report we are going to present this morning. I just need to highlight that we're able to visit the relevant police stations, talk to the commanders, looked at the log records, talked to the police escort assigned for the assignment. We're able to visit Maxam at Iduaprim, talk to the dispatchers and the management as well. We had interviews with the transporter, the explosives driver, the escort driver, the management of Maxam, and also the transporter. We talked to a number of eyewitnesses in the community itself, starting from the chief through a number of others who even helped to convey the injured and so on to the hospitals. And at the end of it all, we have come up with this report, which we believe fairly represents the facts of the case. However, let me emphasize that we will not preempt what the minister will decide to do with our.
Meanwhile, government is giving assurances that no one found culpable of breaching the mining regulations will be spared. I caught up with the Deputy Lands and Natural Resources Minister, George Mrekuduka, on the way forward.
Yes, so the report has just been delivered to the minister, and the minister is going to go through and understand the findings and the recommendations and implement the recommendations where applicable.
There are concerns that the report should be made public so that the public will know what the content of the fact-finding mission was. What's the reaction of government to that?
Why? At the appropriate time, I believe the minister will make it public. He just received it. He has to also peruse and invite whoever he deems fit to advise, and then we can take it from there. But I can't preempt any other measures. Minister has to take into consideration, the predicaments of the people, and he has them at heart, and he's been talking about that, and he wants a serene kind of mining environment, and he wouldn't leave any stone unturned. I believe you go to the extent of making sure that the truth is on earth. So it's not a matter of just going to leave it ajar. I believe he's going to tighten all knots and make sure whoever. And we are not a security agency, so we leave the criminal aspect for the security agencies to do their own investigations and so on. Ours is to ensure that we have a very formidable mining industry, and that is all that, and especially with regards to the transportation of explosives going forward. How do we take care of that? Are we going to separate oil from the ammonium nitrate kind of arrangement? How is a truck carrying explosives to be transported? How to be escorted? I mean, how are we going to also take care of that? It's very important that we look at whether or not we have vehicles or a vehicle following and a vehicle being in front, a flag being hoisted, and so on and so forth. These are the ramifications we need to look at, and I believe we'll look at the whole thing holistically.
And the minister was clear that he was going to exact sanctions to companies that may or any other state agency that may be found culpable in all of this. Is that to suggest that probably the committee has found some form of neglect or negligence of duty or some other similar act on which your powers permit you to act? Are we going to see that?
I have not cited a copy of the report. The minister just received, and as a deputy minister, I am to assist the minister. So if the minister, and I know the minister, my minister will get me briefed, and if anybody is found culpable, why not? We allow the law to roll. So it's not a matter of just...
so you won't spare anybody, you won't shield anyone?
Not at all. Whoever is found culpable will be dealt with by the law.
Because the concerns of the chiefs, and I'm sure that you are quite familiar with the area, the chiefs have raised concerns that some security breaches happened and that there was no escort, for instance, and so the security officials on duty should be punished. I guess that's on the back of the reasons for which the community is asking that the ministry should act in accordance with the law. What are you going to do with regard to that aspect? The fact that you have a mining regulation which is not being adhered to.
The ministry is doing its bits with regards to investigating how the explosion happened. The security agencies are also embarking on a similar venture, and I believe they will deal with what they are doing and with their part, which of course I may not have the experience to even share, the innuendos of it. But I can tell you that, confidently tell you that I was even there when the chief said so.
Right.
And we'll go all out to come up with the truth. We have nothing to hide as a ministry, and we wouldn't shield or protect any company who is found culpable by law. So we not to speculate.
Have they? But I'm sorry for cutting in. But have they provided you with some evidence for reasons why they believe the security protocols were not followed? The chiefs in the area.
No.
After the announcement, because you engaged them ahead of the conclusion of the findings, the minister was there as well.
I think the committee was also there. The committee was there when the chief said so. So the committee, and I believe some of these things may be captured in their report, and there's appropriate sanctions if indeed that is the truth. Because you are not there, I wasn't there, and we may not be able to tell the truth unless we do our investigations as reported or as submitted to the minister. So it's something that everybody, I'm worried because it happened traditionally in my jurisdiction.
Right.
As a fiancé person, I'm worried.
Right.
We'll make sure the truth is said.
Right. And we have two issues to deal with. First, the issue of compensation. Obviously, that will be your greatest concern, having known that you are, of course, that's your traditional home, so you're concerned about your people. What measures are you putting in place? We know there's already a committee, but what more are you doing to ensure that the people are catered for? Already there are complaints that people want to take advantage of the fact that government is promising that you would rebuild the place for them. People are even laying claims to properties that are not theirs. I'm sure all of these concerns have come to you. So how are you going to sanitize that process?
You know that the committee will come up with the solution. Minister, probably by Thursday, will set up a reconstruction committee. Apeatse
on Thursday.
Apeatse Reconstruction Committee, of which he even said during the presentation of the report. So the committee will deal with all that. We see those things in the mining area,
right,
where a mining company wants to resettle a community. You see some of these speculators who will come around, and say, yes, here is mine, this is mine, and so on and so forth. But they have a way of dealing with that. So we'll deal with all that when the committee is set up. So we should calm down. Things are being worked on, and we believe at the appropriate time, Ghanaians will know the details of the report.
And finally, sanitizing the mining sector. There are concerns that we've overlooked a number of breaches. In fact, Maxam, for instance, was warned by the Interior Ministry some time ago of not adhering to some protocols regarding explosives. These are matters that are reports that we're getting from bits and different sources. What are you going to do as a ministry to sanitize the mining industry, and also to a very large extent issues dealing with explosives? The Railway Ministry has told us that you're considering an alternative where the explosives would have to be carted by railway. What reforms beyond these measures are you putting in place to ensure we don't have this incident happen again?
We're waiting for the committee's recommendations to be implemented by the ministry once we've received. some of these measures.
But you're almost always pushing the issues to the committee. How about the ministry? So I'm sure that you're very concerned.
For the ministry, we have been retooling the Inspector Division of the Minerals Commission. We've been going around making sure that we close all knobs and all gaps, and all dots are connected and so on and so forth. We've been doing our bits with regards to that, and I believe we have a very comprehensive minerals and mining regulations, LI 2177.
Yes, 77.
So we have very robust regulations, but time gives and technology gives some sort of room for some of these regulations to be upgraded, and why not? Very soon, Minister may, out of the recommendations made in the report, constitute a comprehensive kind of arrangement to do a thorough research on how to have a composite regulation that will encompass all views. So it is not something that we just taken it lightly. Secondly, I want to also put it on record that the ministry has been dealing with these mining companies with all the rules available, and for that matter, the regulation also empowers the Chief Inspector of Mines to be inspecting and making sure that they comply with the rules and regulations of the mining industry. So it's not something we take lightly at all. And let me reassure you that we will take into consideration the recommendations of the report when Minister reads it comprehensively.
All right. Honorable, we are wrapping up. Your people back home are listening to you. What's your message to them in these trying times?
My people back home, I would speak Wasa. So
in the area, yes.
So yes, we're there. We've been there. I visit them. I was there this weekend, and I'm reassuring them that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the President of the Republic, has Apeatse at heart. He is determined and will remain resolute, making sure that their grievances are addressed.
Thousands today stormed the streets of Accra as the Regional Coordinating Council marked the full operationalization of the Clean Your Frontage policy. The policy, among other things, mandates individuals and entities to clean their immediate surroundings. At the Holy Garden at Circle, there were near chaotic scenes as shop owners clashed with the security forces tasked to demolish their makeshift structures near the Kwame Nkrumah interchange. The regional minister, Henry Quartey, while on a sensitization drive of Operation Clean Your Frontage, ordered for the demolition of the stalls there. Some of the aggrieved shop owners spoke to JoyNews.
Nigeria for no many bachaye. Alata for no many bachaye. Any baby akwa ya that's it. I want to make sure you Ari etino ya sase. Ya ni namdo ya moja mai. Ya moja. Ya ba play moja ni. Leja ya sase. Because let John number the moja sase. Asase ka na to ni ni ko po ma ko be sra no. Asase ka na de. Ya sase. Ya to ya ko bo no. Ya ko bo no. Ya bo no. E dia just ya ba the shop. Ya chi. Oh yes shop. Ya rent shop. Over 100 million last week ya na e cha shop ka 130 million. Ni ba bu shop no. Ni say ya ko bo no na ya de. I'm not no papa. I'm kaya ti ase. Say I don't mo ba be bubu. Ya India ndi. China ndi. I'm not say no mo dia ma o. Stop. Itu be jina ma na dey. Ya diskala ku fani ma no. O ti sa dia no. Ya na wani we ti ama yen. Afure ko fra ba sa ban. Ama stand go di. E ma sa go dia na.
Assemblyman for the area said the decision by the minister took him by surprise.
Well, we are all surprised because we all knew very well that the regional minister has bring out Operation Clean Up Frontage, which we are all supporting. But there's a building here, a project here, and we are cleaning our frontage before we realize the regional minister has bring in a bulldozer, instruct the bulldozer to demolish the building. So I was at a loss. Quickly, I want to confront him and talk to him. He said I shouldn't come close to him. So I was saying, why? This is not part of Operation Clean Your Frontage, because all the traders have respect his order and his decision, and they are all cleaning their frontage. Then already there is the issue here that the Chinese man who owns this building, he built on an hydrant that is claiming the whole stretch is for him, which one or two people are supporting the Chinese man. But for me, I don't think I'm going to support the Chinese man because I have been an assemblyman since 2010. Immediately I was elected as an assembly member, the traders are already here. So where in a health would this Chinese man will claim the whole stretch? We have gone for a MESEC meeting. I challenge that no. The Chinese man is holding the lances since 2019, claiming the whole stretch, that the land belongs to him. So I challenge the engineer and say, okay, if only the man can prove to me that since 2007, 8 or 9, before I became assembly member, then I think I'll agree with him. And the man has a place already that is operating in transport. Why do you want to take the whole stretch that our Ghanaians, our traders are trading, who we went to them to talk to them, to seek for vote for them? I will not accept it. And for the masses, let's do the right thing and do the justice. So moving forward, the meeting was called off, and then they said they will call me again. Then we'll discuss it.
When was this meeting?
It's about 2 weeks ago. Okay. Myself, the coordinating director, some of the police, blah, blah, blah. So the meeting was called off, and they said, oh, they'll call for another meeting and see the way forward. Because my position is, before I become assemblyman, the traders are already here. So I will not accept that they will demolish their buildings and rather leave an Indian man who has also built on an hydrant. As you are seeing, they are demolishing part of the building. Now what they say is that they want to only remove the block. And the Chinese man has his building there, which when you go there right now, you see it on the hydrant. And we've closed our eyes.
The angry mob in the process broke the windshield of a heavy-duty machine used in the demolition exercise. The police were then forced to fire warning shots to disperse the crowd, which followed. Regional Police Commander DCOP E.D. Seidu explained that there was a need for the warning shot.
Of the Operation Clean Your Frontage, there was an instruction for us to bring down an unauthorized and illegal unauthorized structure of block work. So we came here in the morning after our deployment, and as soon as we were sighted, some mob started advancing towards us. But they were restrained. And further reinforcement called in from our various operational units, and also some rapid deployment from immigration. Because this was planned to be a peaceful exercise So the officers were not armed. But when we came and we were meeting a resistance, so we had to call in the teams to come in and support us. And the exercise has been successful. We have been able to bring down the structure.
So there were allegations of a gunshot. Can you confirm whether that came from you or from the people, or there was no gunshot at all?
We gave a warning shot. We gave a warning shot because at a point in time the mob were advancing towards us. And then a warning shot was given and they withdrew. So it was just there to maintain order, to restore order to this place. There wasn't much anything.
What's going to happen now? How long are your men going to also stay here?
We have finished our business. We are continuing with the operation Clean Your Frontage. We don't have any specific business here again other than to sensitize the general public about the operation Clean Your Frontage. So we are done.
The angry traders want the government to fulfill the promise of constructing a market for them. It's been a year since the market was razed down by flames, but today no construction has commenced. JoyNews' Faustina Safo was at Circle Odona earlier today.
If you're a frequent user of this stretch, you would realize that this pavement is mostly filled with petty traders. In fact, it makes it difficult for pedestrians to even make their way through. But today, the place is completely clean and clear of them. Well, it all forms part of government's ambitious project to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa. They have launched Operation Clean Your Frontage, and it's in full force. Here at Circle, the petty traders are themselves compelled to clean their frontage. And you can see that there are already flames burning. Some of the rubbish they collected are being burned here. Also, there are some people dressed in Clean Your Frontage t-shirts and Make Accra Work t-shirts who are doing the cleaning also on the shoulders of the road. Now you can see them holding brooms as well as shovels. They're all trying to ensure that the place is clear, all forming part of government's ambitious agenda. Well, most of the traders have all been compelled to move inside the market, and this is not going well with them. In fact, some of them say that since morning that they've been told to move into the market, they have not been able to make any sales whatsoever, and they are actually frustrated. So let's move closer and speak to some of them right now who is speaking to us. Hello, how are you doing? You're live on JoyNews. Thank you for joining us. You're a petty trader.
Yes.
And today, what's happening?
Today is Operation Clean Your Frontage, and it has affected everybody on the stretch. Actually, we used to be here. We were the traders at the market where it got burnt exactly a year ago. So we were here trading by the roadside, waiting for our president as he promised to come and then construct the markets back. So we were waiting. But unfortunately, the construction hasn't begun yet. There is no space there. Actually, the land is bare. There's nothing on it. But we have to go back because it's Operation Clean Your Frontage from our regional minister. And we can't contend, we can't compete with him. So we actually have to obey. As you can see, we have packed ourselves, cleared the space as he wants us to do. But where we are going to stay is nowhere to, it's not a place that's suitable for us to be. So we are just pleading to our stakeholders, to those who can speak on our behalf, for the market to be constructed. Because where we are, it's nowhere to write home about. We can't stay there. When it's rain, there is problem. Put the rain issue aside, thieves, the place is not organized at all. So please, we are just pleading. If the place can be constructed as our president promised us, that's what we are now looking forward to, that he will honor his promise to us, because it's a year now, and there is nothing there for us to go and do with it. But we have to go because our regional minister said we have to be there. So we have moved back. As you can see, we've cleared everywhere.
I am here since the time the market has been almost 1 year, 3 months now. We didn't see any improvement in this market, and our leaders have done much because they have tried their best for us. The time the year has been, our government give us a few money to start something, and he promised us that he will build the shop for us within 3 months. So you should look for them. So they find a place for us to sit for a few months, and we have started a business there. As for 1 year, 3 months now, we didn't see any improvement. On last week Thursday, that we should pack our things. We should pack our things from the roadside and come to the market inside. But there is no improvement in the market inside. Look at here, the dust is too much. Nobody can even enter here to me. I'm hairdressing. Nobody, as a lady like you, madam, as you have dressed, you can't even come and sit here. The dust to make your hair. It's not nice. So you are still begging our president to try his best for us because we need his help.
At least almost 1 year, this market got bent, and then the government himself came to this premises, promised the traders to rebuild it. Since then, nothing has been done. And then we are not taking it easy because we were trading outside the pavement, and then almost 1 week ago, the regional minister informed us to leave the pavement to relocate. Nothing has done on the land. It's dusty when it rains. This place is also a waterlogged area, and then the security-wise also a major problem here. So that's the situation. Though we have moved in, but it's not the best or what we want.
You're still live with us here on The Pulse. We take a short break. We'll return with more stories. And you're welcome back to The Pulse with me, Blessed Soga. Now, the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has renewed efforts to decongest the central business district as unauthorized trading on pavements creates huge vehicular and human congestion. City guards were seen today driving hawkers off the pavement. The action comes in the wake of threats by traders in other satellite markets to return to the city centre after their colleagues who were moved from the old central market continued to occupy the streets. The central business district of Edum, Kijitia, Dr. Mensa and its environs remain choked as traders defy orders to leave the unauthorized areas. Emmanuel Bright Kweku has more in this report.
The second phase of the Kejitia market reconstruction takes shape. City authorities relocated hawkers and traders to nearby racecourse and Efwa Kobi markets to make way for the project. However, the relocation exercise was met with resistance from a cross-section of the traders who consistently defied orders to evacuate. Today, city guards have started a move to clear the streets of hawkers.
You would normally find a horde of traders on most pavements here in the Kumasi Central Business District. However, it appears that today majority of them have left. Upon my interactions with some vehicular traffic and even human traffic is being eased. And then the field over here is quite okay as compared to before, where majority of these traders were marketing on the pavements.
Meanwhile, some traders who moved to the racecourse markets are threatening to return to the pavements if authorities fail to move their colleagues to the new market. They argue patronage at the markets is low.
We've planned to offload our yam trucks at the old market if authorities fail to relocate the others here by the end of the month. Our old customers don't want to come here, but if authorities demolish the other blocks, they will all come here.
They complain of a bad business.
The road here is bad. We are pleading with the authorities to finish up with the construction here so the others can join us. the authorities should water the road. They should also relocate some of the vehicles here.
From Kumasi for JoyNews, Emmanuel Bright Quick.
Unvaccinated population during the upcoming national COVID-19 vaccination exercise. About 246,300 doses of the vaccines have been made available in the region for the campaign, which is set to take place from the 2nd to the 6th of February this year. As of now, 21.3% of the region's population have received the first dose, while 9.7% are fully vaccinated, with vaccine hesitancy rife among residents. The Ghana Health Services Volta Regional Deputy Director in charge of Public Health, Dr.
Vaccine hesitancy is very profound in the Volta region. We are the last when it comes to vaccine uptake in the entire country. We've had regions who've done close to 35% of their entire population fully vaccinated. We've had regions doing close to half their population taking a single dose. But when you come to the Volta region, the story is very different. Misinformation went ahead of us, and a lot of people believed it. Events of the past few weeks have shown that we all can be victims of false information or fake news. Be you respectfully a traditional or religious leader, be you a scientist or a health worker, be you educated or not. Unfortunately, some people have been influenced by wrong information to kick against one of the most effective measures to save lives during this pandemic. So the purpose of the vaccination campaign is to ensure that we get wider coverage within a short period of time. Because of our peculiar January 2022, but we will continue enjoying the national campaign, which officially begins on the 2nd of February and would run till the 6th of February. So by the time we are done, 20% of the people who are not vaccinated in the region so far should be vaccinated. So that is going to amount to between 150,000 to 200,000.
Well, from the Volta region, let's take you now to Europe and talk about the tensions between Russia and Ukraine, which is attracting attention of other nations. Thomas Sparrow, with our partner DWTV, joins us for more conversation on this. Hello, Thomas.
Germany is really hoping on dialogue on the so-called Normandy format, which in previous years brought together Russia, Ukraine, France and Germany. In fact, already the first meetings of this new Normandy format are due to take place. And Germany is really hoping that that can prove helpful when it comes to solving this standoff between Russia and Ukraine. Germany, however, faces a very big dilemma. On the one hand, it has very deep economic relations with Russia, in particular a pipeline called Nord Stream 2, which links Russia to Germany's allies fear that that could put Europe at risk and that is giving too much power to Russia. On the other hand, Germany is very close with its political allies in the European Union, in the US, that any Russian aggression has to be responded to in a very concrete way. So you have two German positions and a very strong criticism towards Germany's stance, because there are countries and there are analysts within the European Union and the United States that are saying that Germany is threatening European Union unity by being so economically close to Russia.
Wondering, why is Germany refusing to send defensive weapons to Ukraine?
And this is the second very important difference between Germany and some of its allies. The United States, for instance, the United Kingdom, have all sent now weapons to Ukraine, defensive weapons to Ukraine. Germany's position here is different. Germany does not want to send defensive weapons to Ukraine, essentially because it believes that that could make matters worse, that could actually threaten that focus on talks, that focus on diplomacy that we have mentioned. Again, there's criticism from people who believe that Germany should actually be following suit, should be following some of its closest allies in sending defensive weapons to Ukraine. In fact, something that Ukrainian leaders have also been repeatedly asking Germany to do. Again, this is a stance in which Germany differs from some of its closest political allies.
The problem is this, the issue of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
Here's a very big problem. It's been a problem for many years when it was actually being built. Angela Merkel's government always thought of the Nord Stream 2 as a commercial pipeline, as one that was not as political as probably the United States or other European countries thought. It has for a long time put Germany at odds with its closest political allies because it essentially links Russia to Germany. The idea from an economic perspective is to transport Russian gas to Germany and then to other European countries. But countries like the United States or European countries like Poland have for a very long time thought that that could actually be a liability, that could actually be a problem when it comes to dealing with Russia. For example, when there is a big international crisis like the one that we're seeing now with Ukraine.
And Thomas Sparrow is with our partner station, DW. We can now cross over to the University of Ghana. We understand that the Tamils Memorial Heritage is being launched today. We can now take a listen to Alex Segwefia, who is with the NDC, former health minister, speaking there on your screens.
Organization. The members of the Heritage Planning Committee, the individuals and groups who contributed so generously to make this launch such a remarkable success. Nana Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a man who knew President Mills very well will be delivering the keynote address at this launch, during which I'm sure we will all be served with further and better particulars of the lives and times of President John Evans Atta Mills. I will therefore at this juncture conclude by saying that it is my singular, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, who was also Vice President to President John Evans Atta Mills, to make a few remarks and to unveil the logo of the John Evans Atta Mills Memorial Heritage. I thank you very much for your attention. Your Excellency.
Former President John Dramani Mahama, as he makes his way up the stage. Yeah, let's keep the applause flowing, please. Thank you. To make a few remarks and then unveil the logo of the John Evans Atta Mills Memorial Heritage.
I don't know what it is about beards. It looks like Kafui has grown a beard. I just saw Segwefia, Alex, has also grown a beard. I don't know whether it's time to grow a beard myself. But it looks like that's what's in fashion. Myself and Prof were very clean-shaven, and I've continued to maintain that tradition. Nana Chairman, the Advisory Council and Governing Board of the Evans Atta Mills Memorial Heritage, representative of His Excellency, the former President John Ajipum Kufuor, representative of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, representative of the Chief Justice, representative of who else? Looks like everybody is represented. Her Excellency, the former Second Lady of the Republic of Ghana, Matilda Emisata, and let me stand on the protocols so well established by the chairman of the board of the Evans Atta Mills Memorial Heritage. There's so many people that it will take more time to acknowledge everybody. I want to thank you, Mr. Alex Segwefia, and many of us have forgotten that your middle name is Percival. As chairman of the John Evans Atta Mills Memorial Heritage, for the invitation on behalf of the logo. Appropriately, the heritage seeks to inspire humanity for a better society, a virtue that President Atta Mills lived and died for. Professor John Evans Atta Mills simply was a good man. It therefore gladdens the hearts of many millions of people who loved him that this decision was taken to launch the Atta Mills heritage here on the campus of our alma mater, the University of Ghana. This is because it was right here on these very hallowed university grounds, the hail of knowledge and the nation's hope and glory, where we are taught to proceed in integrity and truth, that Professor John Evans Atta Mills honed his distinct values and also laid the foundation for the ultimate mantle of leadership that God placed on him in the latter stages of his life. He earned his enviable reputation on this very campus, even before his call to higher office. Professor Mills left a lasting legacy here on this campus through his teaching, his mentoring, rigorous intellectual endeavor, and physical activity through sports. As a matter of course, Prof became an organic part of this university's history. He lived by the ethos of integrity that the university advocates when he eventually entered national politics as vice president and ultimately as president of the Republic of Ghana. These values never deserted him. Unfortunately, this philosopher king and servant leader of a president did not live with us as long as we would have wished. On that dull and hazy, overcast day of 24th July 2012, death unexpectedly snatched him from us, leaving a shocked nation in sorrow, anguish, and in tears. And my following reminiscences are the first time I'm talking publicly of this sad event. That fateful day, I had been alerted that I would be asked to act because Prof was likely to travel to Nigeria. I was informed by his secretary, Sir James Bebako-Mensah, that he had requested specifically that I stand in for him at the official launch of the Brand Ghana project, which was to take place at the International Conference Center. I attended that function with the Chief of Staff, Mr. John Martin Newman. Upon our return to the castle, which at that time was still then the seat of government, as I proceeded to my office, I asked Chief of Staff Martin Newman to inform Prof that I was going to cross over and see him to discuss a few important issues after meeting with a former president who was waiting in my office. Moments after our return, the Chief of Staff called me frantically and said that Prof had been rushed to the 37 Military Hospital in an emergency. I wrapped up my meeting with the former president and prepared my staff to rush to the hospital. It was then that Sir James Bebako-Mensah entered my office and delivered the devastating news. Prof dead. How? How can Prof die? Were the questions I asked. The world came to a standstill. Nothing in my political life and experience had prepared me for a moment like this. The shelter of working under Prof had been a wonderful experience. His death left me in trepidation of stepping up to the plate, realizing the huge responsibility one was stepping into, and that the buck was going to stop with me and no one else. The swearing-in ceremony was a blur, and I struggled to complete my acceptance speech without breaking down in front of a sorrowful nation. When I left the podium, I missed my way back and went and sat back in my vice presidential seat until the uproar from the MPs reminded me that I had sworn the presidential oath and should move to the ceremonial presidential seat. The rest is history, to be narrated at another appropriate time. Professor Mills was my boss, my comrade, my mentor, and my friend. He was tolerant, he was kind, he was fair, but he was firm. I'm proud to have honed my political skills at his feet. I know there are many also who revere Professor Mills as their teacher and their mentor. He taught in this university for over 25 years and contributed to producing many astute legal practitioners from the Faculty of Law, and also contributed in producing many fine business minds from the then School of Administration, which is now the University of Ghana Business School. Our gathering here today to celebrate once again a man who sacrificed his very life from humanity for academia, for his country, and above all, for his God, for Jesus Christ, is proper and befitting. I believe the launch of the Atta Mills Heritage, which is anchored on his values and principles and is aimed at inspiring humanity, including the youth of Africa and Ghana, for a better society, will further emphasize his legacy. Already, Prof's name is befittingly assigned to a significant number of national infrastructure across the country. These include the John Evans Atta Mills High Street in Accra, the FPSO John Evans Atta Mills, which extracts oil from the 10 fields, which are both named after him. Similarly, the Community Day Senior High School in his home area, Otuam, which happens to have been the first of the E-Block initiatives to be completed, which I had the privilege as president to have commissioned and named after him. Here at the University of Ghana, the School of Law's modern building is named after both Professor Ikwe Akunyehine and Professor Atta Mills in appreciation of their collaborative effort in the construction of the edifice and their remarkable contribution to the teaching of law in Ghana. While I was serving as Prof's vice president and as head of his economic management team, President Mills grew Ghana's economy to a level that remains unprecedented, borrowing his own words in contributing equitably to this feat. Typical of him, even before this growth would be realized, the gracious professor had earlier paid homage to his predecessors in his first State of the Nation address to Parliament in February 2009. In the chair at the time was the Right Honorable Joyce Bamford Addo, Ghana's first and so far only female Speaker of Parliament, nominated by President Mills in his quest for gender parity. And I quote him here. He said, "Madam Speaker, Kwame Nkrumah laid the foundation for oil and gas exploration in Ghana. J. John Rawlings created the institutional framework for its exploration and exploitation. The oil and gas was struck in commercial quantities in the period of John Agyekum Kufuor. Actual commercial exploitation is beginning in the period of John Evans Atta Mills. And in between us mentioned are others who played a very important part. Prof was the one to share credit and glory. Nana Chair, this is the man we celebrate today. Magnanimous, gender sensitive, a unifier, peaceful, and above all, God-fearing. As a Pan-Africanist, he never hid his distress over historical and contemporary exploitation of Africa, which propelled the growth of Europe and America, leaving Africans in poverty. Therefore, as president, he was determined to use the oil and gas wealth for the greater benefit of Ghanaians, for Ghana and all Ghanaians, irrespective of our backgrounds. And this is why he passed the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, the PRMA, through which the ABFA, the Annual Budget Funding Account, the Heritage Fund, the Stabilization Funds were created. These have helped us immensely in managing our oil revenues, and even only recently during the COVID, it was money accumulated under my administration in the stabilization fund created by Professor Mills that was used to provide funds for financing government's initial response to the pandemic. As a social democrat who believed in social justice, he laid a robust foundation for the socio-economic advancement of Ghana. President Mills purposely invested in Ghana's greatest assets, the citizens, particularly its youth. Seeing great potential in Ghana's future through education, he encouraged the study of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM, through the Mathematics, Science, and Technology Scholarship Scheme, which was named Masters, for secondary and tertiary students. He also actively involved eminent scientists in his quest for science education, research and development, and innovation for national development. His partners in this endeavor included Professor Emeritus Francis Nkrumah, son of the founder and first president of our republic, Professor Irama Adi, the first Ghanaian female professor of natural science, and also his friend Professor Francis Kofi Ampenyi Alote. As president, Professor Mills increased the capitation grant introduced by President Ajekum Kufuor by 50%. He enhanced the school feeding program and embarked on an ambitious construction of infrastructure in secondary schools across the country. Under his leadership, the University of Health and Allied Sciences, UHAS, in the Volta region, and the University of Energy and Natural Resources, UNER, in the Brong-Ahafo region were established. In the health sector, President Atta Mills also equipped our National Emergency Response System with the importation of 160 new ambulances and initiated numerous health infrastructure projects across the country. These included the 100-bed hospital with a malaria research center at Tishi, the rehabilitation of the Tamale Teaching Hospital and the Adenta Community Hospital, and several other polyclinics and health centers. Prof was also very witty. He could provide on the spur of the moment intelligent answers that could make you smile or laugh. As the chairman recalled, and I hope you all recall, the issue of many ways of killing a cat. A judgment in the courts had gone against government, and our chairman at the time, Kwabnaje, was ranting against the judiciary, and the issue about many ways of killing a cat came up. A journalist asked President Atta Mills at a press conference about it, and his savvy and witty response was, "Look at me, come closer. Do I look like a cat hunter?" He believed in the genuine and true independence of the judiciary and was ready and willing to protect the judiciary and the justice delivery system at all costs. I'm sure you also recollect the Ziwufiasem during the Ivorian crisis. This was also pregnant with humor. But most importantly, it's a statement that requires interdisciplinary research into the origins and nuanced meaning of the rich Fanti proverb, Ziwufiasem. Prof detested comrades undermining each other. He had a practice of detaining the person who had come to make a negative report about a colleague to him. He detained you in his office. He quickly had the colleague about whom the report had been made brought to his office quickly. He then asked the one who had made the report to repeat what he had just told him. And in Ghanaian parlance, we say, "Come and see stammering." Nana Chairman, my brothers and sisters, these and many more recollections of this inspirational son of the land are the reasons Prof was and still loved by so many. For those familiar with the anthem of this great university where President Atta Mills studied and worked, you realize the earlier part of my speech drew on our motto, Integri Procedamus, to wit, proceeding in integrity. Integrity sounded loudly and was defined by Prof in all he did. As I conclude, I call on each one of us Ghanaians to uphold truth and integrity and the peaceful nature of Prof. Let us stay united, even in the face of adversity. Let us uphold tolerance. Yes, we must endeavor to proceed in unity and in truth. We must also strive to defend the cause of freedom, and we must fervently uphold the public cause to protect our democracy. This is why Legon, the hallowed ground upon which we stand today, always calls on her products and all Ghanaians to arise and arise and arise to defend the cause of freedom and proceed in truth and integrity to make our nation proud. Refreshingly, these attributes of the University of Ghana intersect harmoniously with President Mills's personal values. His quest for peace, for which he was named Asundwehene, his quest for excellence and integrity, transparency and accountability, commitment to the well-being of all Ghanaians, and inclusivity. I'm glad the heritage seeks to build on from where he left off in a non-partisan manner. Above all, these values are what made Professor Mills a true Ghanaian. He embodied that ideal Ghanaians yearn for to collectively transform our country. Let his values lead us. Professor Mills was such a moral and political colossus, and there can be no limit put on the vehicles and instruments that eulogize and ingrain his memory and history in the hearts and minds of Ghanaians. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and honor to be joined to do the unveiling of the logo by Sami Atta Mills and the chairman of the board of the Atta Mills Memorial Heritage. I thank you very much. God bless us all. Ladies and gentlemen, the Atta Mills Memorial Heritage is duly launched. Thank you very much.
Well, so there you have it. Former President John Dramani Mahama there paying glowing tributes to the late President John Evans Atta Mills at the launch of the Atta Mills Memorial Heritage at the University of Ghana. But you're still live here on The Pulse. We take a short break. When we return, we have sports for you.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment. Suleiman Tari has signed for Accra Hearts of Oak till 2023. That's the big story coming in for the Ghana Premier League. Joining me in studio is Joel Botte. Now, Suleiman Tari, he's 37 years, comes back to the Ghana Premier League. We saw Jan trying that, it didn't go too well. Will it be any better for Muntari?
Well, I believe Muntari brings a lot into the game. When you look at what Hearts have been through looking from last season, this season they are lacking that midfielder that can bring the explosiveness and the abilities of Benjamin Efutu. If you look what he did for Hearts of Oak in previous seasons. Now, if you look at what Muntari has done over his record, you know that he's someone that can contribute a lot through midfield, either through goal scoring, chance creation. He's everywhere. He's that midfield that can get you what you need from midfield. There are times where your forwards may not be able to explode or give you the result you want, but that's when you need a midfielder to step in with the leadership and also goal contribution. And I believe that's what Muntari brings to this Hearts of Oak side. They've been lacking that in their midfield this season.
All right, thank you very much, Joel Botte. And this is all the time would allow us. I will bring you more analysis on that big move from Suleiman Tari as he joins defending champions Hearts of Oak.
And that's all time will allow us on the polls for today. My name is Blessed Sogan. Don't forget that we have more stories for you on our website, myjoyonline.com. Up next is Let's Talk Showbiz. Stay with us here on the Joy News channel.